distinguished representatives, I declared open the second plenary meeting. Today, we will continue consideration of Agenda Item 8, General Debate. States are invited, in accordance with Rule 50 of the Rules of Procedure of the Assembly, to deliver statements of no longer than 5 minutes. Pursuant to the Bureau decision taken on 8 September 2021, the general debate is scheduled to take place this afternoon and tomorrow in the morning and in the afternoon. Given the challenges faced by the coronavirus pandemic, the modalities of holding the general debate include the pre-recorded videos or in-person statements. States in a position to do so are invited to submit written statements only, which would be posted on the website of the Assembly. The updated list of speakers can be found at the ASP website and conference officer's desk. Let us proceed immediately with our first speaker, His Excellency Mr. Ance Logar, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Slovenia, who will speak on behalf of the European Union via a pre-recorded video.
Madam President, I'm honored to address the Assembly of State Parties on behalf of the European Union and its member states. The candidate countries, Republic of Albania, Montenegro, Republic of North Macedonia, Republic of Serbia, the country of the stabilization and association process and potential candidate Bosnia and Herzegovina, the EFTA countries, Republic of Iceland and Kingdom of Norway, members of the European Economic Area, as well as Principality of Andorra, Georgia, Republic of Moldova and Republic of San Marino aligned themselves with this statement. In this capacity, I would like to congratulate the new President of the Assembly, the new President of the Court, the new Prosecutor, as well as the judges elected during the last session of the Assembly. We wish them every success and assure them of our steadfast support. The ICC has faced trying times with resilience, persevering to fulfill its mandate during the pandemic, adjusting to leadership changes and addressing systematic attempts to question its role and legitimacy. New challenges are undoubtedly ahead, and we must be vigilant and ready to support the Court and protect its independence, integrity and mandate. Madam President, this is also a time of invaluable opportunities. The ongoing process of review of the Court's functioning gives us the possibility to strengthen the Rome Statute system and make the Court more efficient and effective. We have high expectations for the review process, and we encourage the ICC and state parties to continue engaging in the follow-up of the independent review and to prioritize, as appropriate, the implementation of its recommendations. It is essential that in this process, the integrity of Rome Statute is preserved and its core principles are not called into question. It is of utmost importance to continue promoting good governance and a healthy work culture that ensures inclusion and gender balance. Equitable geographical distribution, representation of the principal legal system of the world, as well as linguistic diversity are also key. This exercise is a collective effort to which the Court, state parties and the civil society must all contribute. We also invite the Court to continue improving its outreach and communication, including through dialogue with concerned countries, to effectively promote its mandate and activities, as well as to address misperceptions. Madam President, as the Court workload continues to increase, we cannot expect it to deliver high-quality international justice without adequate capacities. We therefore urge all state parties to provide the ICC with the necessary financial resources and to fulfill their obligations to pay the annual contributions in full and on time. Furthermore, we are very concerned about the high amount of errors and urge state parties to pay their outstanding contributions. We also note with concern the serious challenges that the Court continues to face in relation to its request for cooperation, including the execution of its outstanding arrest warrants. We therefore call upon all states to ensure full cooperation with the Court, including by granting voluntary cooperation whenever that is needed. There is protection and relocation of victims and witnesses. Interim release and the enforcement of sentences are all integral part of the international criminal procedure, and the relevant burden should be shared equitably among the states parties, including, as appropriate, through voluntary cooperation agreements. The Court also needs increased cooperation in the area of financial investigation and assets recovery. We should also not forget the victims of atrocity crimes, who are those most affected. While it is impossible to undo their suffering, we trust the Trust Fund for Victims provides repatriation and assistance to the victims and their families and may bring them a measure of peace. We call on all states parties to contribute to the fund. Madam President, long-lasting peace and sustainable development built on justice. We believe that efforts to promote the universality of the Rome Statute can contribute to criminal accountability and justice. The European Union will continue to advocate for the universal ratification of the Rome Statute, which remains our long-term goal, and invites all states that have not yet done so to consider joining the ICC to end impunity for the most serious crimes worldwide. The ICC is at a crucial junction that will shape the years ahead. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that the Court has solid basis from which to address future challenges. The EU and its member states are fully committed to continuing working together with all partners to strengthen international criminal justice and further the work of the ICC. Victims of atrocity crimes are calling for justice. We have high expectations for the Court to narrow the accountability gap and bring perpetrators to justice wherever they are. I thank you.
I thank His Excellency for his statement and now give the floor to Her Excellency Mrs. Mariah Ubach-Font, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Andorra.
Madame la Présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres,
Madam President, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, the Principality of Andorra, as a very small country, places special importance on the existence of the rules of the international legal system and respect thereto. The creation of the ICC in 1998 was a milestone that was accomplished in order to end impunity for the most heinous of crimes, and that is why Andorra has supported the International Criminal Court ever since the drafting of the Rome Statute and supported initiatives designed to improve it. Indeed, we are one of the 39 states parties to have supported the amendments on war crimes and the crime of aggression. More recently, we ratified the amendment doing away with the provision enabling a state to no longer accept jurisdiction of the court with respect to war crimes alleged to have been committed by its nationals or on its territory for 7 years, as well as the amendment defining as a war crime the intentional starvation of civilians as a method of warfare. Also, since 2008, we have supported the work undertaken by the Trust Fund for Victims, which ensures reparations and enables victims to recover dignity through voluntary contributions. Over the last few years, the continued support from my country to the fund can be seen through the funding of activities incorporating a gender perspective in the CAR, DRC, and northern Uganda. In 2020, Andorra contributed to the counseling and socioeconomic reintegration project for 550 young women who'd been victims of sexual violence in the Walungu in the eastern DRC. Gender equality and women's empowerment represents a priority for my country. Indeed, in the Minister for Social Affairs, Youth and Equality, there is a specialized service for equality policies designed to promote and improve the situation of equality and combat discriminations of the most vulnerable. And in this regard, we are pleased that the Court has appointed a gender equality coordinator to assist the principals of the court in their efforts to reinforce policies concerning regarding gender and resolve issues linked to the employment of women in the institution, as well as ensuring gender balance at the in terms of employment. Madam President, in the reform mechanism launched a few years ago, we've seen that there is a will to overcome challenges and improve the existing mechanisms. The implementation of recommendations from the IER is asking for commitment from the court and from member states, and we call on everyone to support these so that it can advance as well as possible. We are pleased to see that some of these recommendations, particularly 87, are actually going to be part of a reform process. 87, of course, about anti-harassment policies. When it comes to this 20th session of the ASP, we have the exceptional task of needing to elect 2 deputy prosecutors. Andorra is very aware that the high responsibility that will be embodied by these individuals, and we are hoping that the most experienced and qualified individuals will be elected to these roles. They, as we know, will make a significant contribution to the ongoing struggle against impunity. We believe that the defense and promotion of the rule of law is a global issue for which international cooperation and the defense of multilateralism are vital. The ICC is the best instrument for trying the perpetrators of the most heinous crimes affecting the entire international community and for fighting against impunity of those responsible. And in this regard, it's important to ensure that the objective of universality of the Statute of Rome is pursued, and that is why we would like to call on all states that have not yet done so to ratify. Moreover, the Principality of Andorra can fully endorse the declaration made on behalf of the European Union, reaffirming its support to the core so as to promote universality of the statute, of the Rome Statute, and bolster the work of the ICC in the future. All member states of the Rome Statute are part of a chain made up of all United Nations member states. Thank you very much.
I thank Her Excellency for her statement, and now I give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Jean Asselborn, Minister of Foreign and European Affairs of Luxembourg.
Madame la Présidente,
Madam President, Luxembourg, first of all, would like to endorse everything said on behalf of the European Union. We'd like to congratulate the new President of the Assembly, the new President of the Court, the new prosecutor, and all of the judges elected during the last session of the Assembly. Luxembourg wishes you every success. Rest assured of our unwavering support. The struggle against impunity is more important than ever. The ICC has been able to overcome difficulties in this tricky period with resilience and perseverance so as to discharge its mandate despite the pandemic, and by showing flexibility, being able to adapt to change and fight off any who would question its role and its legitimacy. Even though the court is discharging its legal mandate, it's up to the states parties to give all of their political support to it. All of us need to support the court and protect its independence. Luxembourg is committed to continued support and defending the principles and values enshrined in the Rome Statute and preserve the integrity of the ICC. International law, criminal law, is of capital importance when it comes to accountability vis-à-vis the perpetrators of the most heinous crimes and rendering justice to the victims. And it's important for us to ensure that the latter have continued access to justice. Madam President, we're at a turning point with a lot of reflection about the court, which will shape its work for years to come. The IER and the review mechanism are offering the court a unique opportunity to further improve the way that it works and provide justice for the victims from all around the world. And in this context, context, it's important to keep focused on the key objectives of the court, the obligation for accountability and the contribution to preventing and prevention based on the rule of law. The protection of the independence of the OTP is part of this. It's time to promote a working culture promoting equality between women and men, and we see that the court has already started implementing some of the recommendations of these independent experts. And we welcome in this regard the declaration, the high-level declaration on gender equality from the court's principles, equitable geographical distribution, representativeness of the different legal systems from around the world, and linguistic diversity are also important. It's the review and the implementation of the recommendations from the IER are part of an inclusive and transparent approach, and this is a collective exercise to which the court, the states parties and civil society can all contribute. Madam President, the number of cases before the court has never been so high, and this is because of the increasing number of conflicts around the world which affect civilian populations. But it also, I think, attests to the fact that the court has begun to fulfill its potential when it comes to ensuring accountability vis-à-vis the perpetrators of these most serious crimes. In order to maintain this level of activity, the ICC's budget will have to be commensurately enhanced. Since the workload of the court is continuing to grow, we need to understand that high-quality international justice has to have adequate capacity. Luxembourg is therefore against any zero nominal growth budgets for the budgeting for the ICC. It's important for us to adopt here at this Assembly the budget for 2022, which will give the court all of the wherewithal that it requires in order to deal with this growing demand for accountability and improve the current budgeting process. We would also call on all member states to pay their assessed contributions in full and on time. The high number of states in arrears is very worrying, and we call on those member states involved to catch up as soon as possible. We should never forget that it's the victims of these crimes and atrocities that are the most affected. It's impossible to undo what they've suffered, but the TFV does offer reparations and assistance both to them and to their families, and Luxembourg will continue to contribute to the fund and calls on other member states to do the same. Madam President, the court is about to celebrate next year 20 years, and it is still at the heart of the international effort to ensure accountability for the most serious crimes and to maintain the rule of law. The ICC is now in a phase that's going to shape its work for years to come, and so it's our responsibility collectively to ensure that the court has a solid base, with which to overcome future challenges. Luxembourg is firmly determined to cooperate with all partners to ensure that the court's work can go ahead. The victims deserve justice. Let's not let them down. And they, quite rightly, are expecting the court to do everything within its power to ensure accountability and to bring to justice the perpetrators of these crimes, wherever they are. It's up to us now to collect the court in these efforts. Thank you very much.
I thank His Excellency for his statement, and now I give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Pekka Haavisto, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Finland.
Madam President, Finland aligns itself with the statement delivered today on behalf of the European Union. The International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute system are undergoing a period of change, review and reflection. Allow me to congratulate you on your election as the President of the Assembly, and through you, the new President of the Court, the new Prosecutor, as well as the judges elected during the last session of the Assembly. You can count on Finland's unwavering support to the ICC. The new leadership brings along new energy and ideas. This is timely, as we are in the midst of an extensive process of reviewing the functioning of the ICC and the Rome Statute system. Renewed dynamism is even more important as the workload of the court is increasing. Madam President, state parties must ensure that the court has adequate resources to deliver justice. Delaying proceedings is not an option. The human and financial costs are unacceptable. All state parties have a legal obligation to pay their contributions in full and on time. We must consider all measures to prevent the liquidity crisis faced by the ICC in 2 consecutive years. State parties can nonetheless expect the court to fulfill its mandate efficiently and effectively. The ongoing review process is valuable in guiding the way. With the support and sufficient funding from state parties, the ICC should harness new technologies to aid its work. I welcome the emphasis that the review process has put on advancing gender equality at the ICC. The court urgently needs more women in senior positions. All appointments should be merit-based, and the Advisory Committee on Nominations plays an important role with regard to the judicial elections. I am proud to note the election of Judge Erkki Kourula there too. Madam President, we, the state parties, must sustain our support to the court and its independence against any outside pressures. The ICC is, however, dependent on cooperation from all states to fulfill its mandate. Ending impunity and for atrocity crimes globally also necessitates determined action at national level, as the ICC is a court of last resort. On par with our support to the ICC and national criminal proceedings, we must ensure the safety of civil society activists and human rights defenders who are on the front line gathering evidence on violations of international law. All too often, they are harassed and intimidated to prevent them from providing their findings to the attention of the ICC. Madam President, faced with the existential threats posed by climate change and biodiversity loss, we must use all measures to prevent them. I follow with interest the discussions on the possible international criminalization of ecocide. Bearing in mind the often lengthy process of reshaping international law, I am encouraged of the possibilities to make better use of the Rome Statutes as it stands to address environmental damage. Madam President, as the heart of the Rome Statute is our collective promise to victims of mass atrocities that their voices are heard and that justice will be served. This should never be forgotten. Furthermore, to mitigate the immeasurable harm suffered by the victims, the Trust Fund for Victims was established. I'm glad to announce that Finland will significantly increase its voluntary contribution to the Trust Fund to support its assistance and reparations mandates. I encourage all other states to consider doing the same. I thank you.
I thank His Excellency for his statement, and now I give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Riyad Malki, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates of the State of Palestine.
Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, allow me at the outset to say I would have liked to address the Assembly in person as planned. However, the recent surge in COVID cases requires us to adjust and adapt to ensure that we put health and safety first. Regardless the format, the State of Palestine is present to reiterate in the strongest terms its unwavering support to the International Criminal Court and unconditional commitment to defend the independence, legitimacy, and integrity of the Rome Statute system. This principled position goes hand in hand with our commitment to improving the efficiency and effectiveness of the system. We find ourselves yet again at the end of a particularly challenging year. While progress continues on many fronts, including the review mechanism, there is still much work to be done. We see the need to focus on strengthening the court in three areas. First, the protection and defense of the court, its officials and personnel. While we were pleased to see the sanctions lifted against targeted ICC officials, personnel, as well as persons associated with the court, the danger is not over yet. We need to continue our work as state parties to oppose efforts to undermine the court's work and independence. It is crucial that as state parties to the ASP, we develop a strategy to respond to and confront unsubstantiated and biased attacks on the court by non-state parties. We must ensure that any measures made against the ICC, its officials, or those cooperating with the court are met with strong condemnation and confronted with effective measures. Indeed, civil society organizations and human rights defenders play an indispensable role in the pursuit of justice for victims around the world and working with the court, especially in instances where the OTP is unable to access such countries. The court needs this assistance and these partners to fulfill its mandate properly and in a timely fashion. We must ensure that they are able to continue their efforts in a protected and supported environment. But many of these partners are facing increased dangers and threats, and they require our protection. Only a month ago, Israel, the occupying power, unlawfully criminalized the work of 6 Palestinian civil society organizations, which are some of the few experts on the work of the court in our region. It is blatantly clear that the intention and effect of such a declaration is to prevent Palestinian human rights defenders from assisting the OTP in its investigation and impede access to international justice and accountability. Israel's criminalization of Palestinian NGOs is an attack on international justice, and if allowed to proceed without consequences, this Israeli assault on human rights defenders will embolden other states to follow suit and have a chilling effect on the work of NGOs worldwide. Naturally, this assault has been denounced by hundreds of organizations, experts, and states. I urge all state parties and the prosecutor to take concrete steps to defend these civil society organizations against such persecution, and in so doing, defend the values and principles of the Rome Statute, as well as the work and mandate of the court. The second area of focus is the effectiveness and impact of the court. Today, the need for and importance of the court could not have been made more apparent. Chronic and relentless commission of war crimes and crimes against humanity continue unabated. We want to see the court maintaining the very highest legal standards and conducting efficient, timely, and effective investigations and prosecutions. This year, the investigation of the situation in Palestine was finally opened. However, we note with concern that despite spending 6 years under preliminary examination, the investigation is only in the planning phase. Of equal concern is the considerable discrepancy in the allocated resources between investigations undertaken by the court. This does not seem to align with the goal of expeditiousness, and it must be addressed. Third, we would like to stress the centrality of victims in the Rome Statute system, including their meaningful participation at all stages of proceedings. It is often difficult for victims in such countries to understand why it takes so long to come to preliminary findings. Court proceedings are subjected to procedural requirements, but there is no manual that sets a guideline or a time frame for grief and suffering. This needs to change. Allow me to conclude by saying that if we are to fulfill the objective of the Rome Statute, our commitment to accountability must be demonstrable and unwavering. The escalating encroachment on civil society, including in Palestine, presents us with a test we cannot and must not fail. We have an obligation to work together to ensure that both the court and those cooperating with it, including officials, are protected from intimidation, harassment, incitement, and state-sponsored spy wars that threaten personal security and lives as well as international justice. Thank you for your kind attention.
I thank His Excellency for his statement, and I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. David J. Francis, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Sierra Leone.
Madam President, the Republic of Sierra Leone congratulates you on your election as President of the Assembly of States Parties and commend you on your driven and excellent leadership. Similarly, as this is the first Assembly General debate during their respective terms in office, I congratulate the President of the International Criminal Court, Judge Piet Hofmanski, and Prosecutor Mr. Karim Assad Ahmad Khan on their respective elections. In this 20th session of the ASP, heralded by leadership changes in the court, I also congratulate the 6 newly elected judges, including Judge Mieta Mariah Samba of Sierra Leone. I use this opportunity to thank all states parties that supported Judge Samba and also applaud the gender parity achieved in the judiciary with the election of 6 new judges. Sierra Leone fully appreciates that the leadership of the court, in particular both the President and Prosecutor, are already engaged with work on strengthening the court, one of the key priorities of the presidency of the ASP and the Assembly as a whole. Madam President, since the court began sittings in July 2002, Sierra Leone notes that the ICC is in a consequential time, albeit a period with full optimism, given the seamless leadership transitions in the court, its ongoing review process, and the constructive resolution of external threats. Ultimately, there is momentum to complete the review process to strengthen the court with a focus on achieving impartial justice for atrocity crimes without fear or favor, and being responsive to the plight of the victims. Sierra Leone therefore commends the court for the remarkable business continuity and judicial developments despite the continuing challenges of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Fundamentally, the wheels of international justice continue to turn at the ICC, with the regrettable continuing perpetration of atrocity crimes globally. The relevance of the ICC's mandate cannot be overemphasized. Consequently, Sierra Leone agrees with the vision of the court being a universal, responsive, flexible, and resilient organization with a consistent outlook towards continuous improvement. A critical part to achieve this vision of the court is through the successful completion of the review process. That is why Sierra Leone has been actively engaged in the review and the work of the review mechanism. I take this opportunity to commend the review mechanism for the work done and results achieved thus far, including the adoption of the Comprehensive Action Plan and the assessment of prioritized recommendations agreed to be undertaken by the second half of 2021. Sierra Leone would urge for continued support and constructive engagement with the review mechanism and the ASP mandates undertaking the review-related work aimed at improving the performance, efficiency, and effectiveness of the court's operation. We'll also welcome and commend the court and its focal points for their efforts in the review process. Madam President, Sierra Leone once again reiterate our unwavering support for the court as an independent and impartial judicial institution. And this restatement of support to the court is a way of reiterating our commitment to the victims. We recall and restate that at the heart of the work of the court are the victims, on whose behalf we have this accountability system. We therefore acknowledge and commend the Trust Fund for Victims for the discharge of its mandate. It is in recognition of the important work of the Trust Fund for Victims that the government of Sierra Leone, on the recommendation of the Judicial and Legal Service Commission, nominated Mr. Ibrahim Suri Gila for election to the one seat allocated to African states in the election of members of the boards of the Trust Fund for the benefit of victims. With this recognized competence in the assistance of victims of serious crime, Sierra Leone extends its thanks for your support. In closing, Madam President, let me use this occasion to pay tribute to the Deputy Prosecutor, Mr. James Stewart, for his commitment and outstanding contributions to the court as he completes his term in office. As we proceed to elect 2 new Deputy Prosecutors this session, it is important that the universal character of the court be reinforced by not only gender and linguistic representations, but significantly equitable geographical representation in all aspects of the work of the court. I thank you.
I thank His Excellency for his statement, and now I give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Dominique Hassler, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Education and Sport of Liechtenstein.
Madam President, the meeting of the Assembly of State Parties is taking place at an important moment for the International Criminal Court, and indeed for us state parties. It is all the more regrettable that we are yet again deprived by the circumstances created by the pandemic from gathering in person and to engage in direct contact with each other and the representatives of the court. We wish to express our strong support to you in these challenging times. This session of the Assembly marks a moment both of opportunity and of challenge. The process initiated by the independent expert review can bring the court and state parties together in a new way that allows for constructive cooperation and results in stronger performance and overall impact of the court. We all wish to see efficient and successful judicial proceedings, the best possible use of the resources allocated to the court, and of course, additional progress in the area of universality. We are encouraged by the measures the court has already taken in the area of management, in particular, and hope that we can continue on this path in order to achieve our common goals. As state parties, we must be prepared to extend full political, diplomatic and financial support to stand up against political attacks against the court. And in doing so, we must show full respect for the basic principles and integrity of the Rome Statute. In particular, judicial independence, impartiality, and the principle of the complementarity as provided for in Article 17 of the treaty. We will only be successful in this effort if we also look at ourselves as state parties and agree on ways to step up our own efforts and to improve our own performance. Madam President, the main strength of the ICC remains the Rome Statute. The high quality and outstanding relevance of the treaty should be appropriately celebrated in the coming year, as we celebrate 20 years of the court's operations. The Rome Statute has stood the test of time and is one of the biggest achievements in the area of treaty making in the past 3 decades. The upcoming anniversary is an important opportunity for us state parties to fully embrace the integrity of the treaty as a whole, whose main parameters should not be subject to discussions or attempts of reinterpretation. At the same time, the Rome Statute must continue being a living document. We recall that the treaty was completed in Kampala when we agreed by consensus on the inclusion of a definition and jurisdiction parameters with regard to the crime of aggression. We are encouraged that more than a third of state parties have ratified the Kampala amendments on the crime of aggression, with Italy soon to become the 42nd state to do so. We have also made other important updates to the Rome Statute, in particular with respect to the jurisdiction over war crimes reflected in Article 8. I am pleased to announce today that the Liechtenstein Parliament has ratified the amendment to Article 8 of the Rome Statute regarding weapons which use microbial or other biological agents or toxins, as well as the amendment relating to intentionally using starvation of civilians as a method of warfare. The Liechtenstein Parliament has also ratified the amendment with regard to Article 124 of the Rome Statute, accepting the deletion of this transitional provision. We will deposit our relevant instruments of ratification early next year. We must remain open to discussing other amendments to the treaty, reflecting the progressive development of international law when necessary. Madam President, one of the most pertinent discussions with respect to the international law is the question of its application to cyberspace. These discussions are unfolding in several fora at the United Nations in particular. But indeed, we must include the Rome Statute and international criminal law more generally in this analysis. This is why, together with 10 other state parties to the Rome Statute, we created a council of advisors that helped produce an in-depth examination of the application of the Rome Statute to cyber warfare. The Council reached the unanimous conclusion that the Rome Statute provisions indeed apply to
Mesdames et messieurs, alors...
We will suspend for a few minutes. There seems to be a technical issue.
We created a council of advisors that helped produce an in-depth examination of the application of the Rome Statute to cyber warfare. The Council reached the unanimous conclusion that the Rome Statute provisions indeed apply to cyber warfare.
Well, I am very sorry, but it seems that this technical issue cannot be solved. We will try to do it later to see whether there is a problem with the video itself or its reproduction. But now we will continue with the next speaker on our list, who is His Excellency, Mr. Jean-Yves Le Drian, Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of France.
Nous apprêtons à célébrer l'an prochain le 20e anniversaire de l'entrée en vigueur.
We're just about ready to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the entry into force of the Statute of Rome, and I want to take this opportunity to express France's continued full support to the ICC. To date, the ICC is still a unique institution, the only international criminal law institution capable of playing this essential role in preventing and bringing to justice these most heinous crimes which affect all of humanity. We've continued to support the court, and we call on all states parties to renew their commitment to the court. It's not about politicizing its work, it's about preserving its capacity for action. The court needs to be able to act in complete independence and impartiality in the framework of the Rome Statute. The OTP needs to be able to undertake its prerogatives without hindrance, and we call on this to be upheld. Our support to the court is also operational. France was the first country to cooperate with the court over and above all of those states who had actually seen investigations taking place on their territory, and we call on all stakeholders to do the same. Our support is also financial. By the end of 2020, we'd made an exceptional payment of 150,000 euros. This year, 70,000 more. And this is something that we can do to support the judicial capacity of states parties so as to better cooperate with the court. And this goes hand in hand with our commitment alongside Senegal as a facilitator of the working group on cooperation of this assembly. This financial commitment needs to be bolstered with the implementation of the principles of complementarity and cooperation, which underlie the Rome Statute, which means ending impunity, be it locally or through the by engaging the court's jurisdiction. You can see this with the training, for example, on asset identification and freezing. We also support the human resources with our support for young professionals program and the internship programs. We, furthermore, will continue to support the follow-up to the review process of the court as undertaken by this assembly, which is important to ensure the continued legitimacy of the court. On behalf of France, I want to welcome all of the teams of the ICP who were able to continue the court's work despite the difficult health crisis. The convictions that have been handed down, the memorandum signed with the Sudanese authorities, with the opening of the new cases, the new trials scheduled for 2022, or the reparations orders for victims. I think these are all important milestones, and yet we know that the court is still facing some some operational challenges. For example, the challenge of trust with states parties, but also non-parties to the Statute of Rome. And this is important because the court's work depends on suitable cooperation with states. I do think that an impact assessment as to the regarding the sanctions imposed by the previous American administration on the court needs to be undertaken. The ICC needs to ensure that its administration is modernized and made more efficient, given that it has limited resources, and France stands ready to support it in this. We also see that there's been a high turnover, a major turnover in the principles of the court, and we welcome and congratulate the new president of the court and all of the other newcomers, and we are sure that you will contribute to the good administration of justice. We also feel that the prosecutor's decision to accord greater priority to certain situations is going to mean that there will be a swifter recourse to justice, which is obviously important as well. And finally, I'd like to mention France's attachment to the key principles of the Statutes of Rome, representativeness of the different legal traditions and linguistic diversity. And ladies and gentlemen, you can still continue to count on France to support all of these endeavors. Thank you.
Excellency for his statement. And now I give the floor to Right Honorable Elizabeth Truss, Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs and Minister for Women and Equalities of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, the UK cares deeply about international criminal justice and ensuring accountability for the most serious crimes. This is fundamental to our foreign policy and our belief in the rules-based international system. It's why we remain a strong supporter of the ICC. It plays a crucial role in entrenching the rule of law. And over the past year, the court has seen some real successes. With the pandemic still impacting how we work, the court's delivered a verdict in the case of Dominic Ongwen. And it's confirmed the conviction of Bosco Ntaganda, who was found guilty of various war crimes and crimes against humanity, including sexual enslavement and rape. It is grotesque that sexual violence is still used as a weapon of war, and we want to build a new consensus with partners across the world to condemn it as a red line, with all options on the table, including an international convention, to stop sexual violence in conflict. I hope I'll be able to rely on your support to hold perpetrators to account, including through this court, and to put an end to these heinous acts. The court has seen significant change in recent months. At last year's Assembly of States Parties, we argued the election of the best possible judges and prosecutor were vital to the future of the ICC. So we're very pleased that since then, 6 new judges have been elected to the court. This includes the excellent Judge Joanna Corner from the UK. We wish all of the judges every success as they consider cases coming before the court. The court has also opened a new chapter under Prosecutor Karim Khan. He should enjoy the support of all states parties in his work to hold the guilty to account and provide redress to victims. We'll further strengthen the court by continuing our essential efforts towards reform. We believe these should be focused on 3 areas. First, through improvements to governance. The court must be seen to be making its decisions and conducting effective investigations and prosecutions to the highest legal standards. This needs greater focus on professionalism in all aspects of the court's work. Second, we need to see a clear and consistent approach to the practical application of the complementary principle, whereby the ICC steps in only as the last result, where national authorities are genuinely unable or unwilling to investigate or prosecute. Third, the court should take a more rigorous approach to ensuring it prioritises effectively, making the best use of available resources, and being realistic about what can be achieved. Last year, we welcomed the recommendations of the independent expert review. By implementing those recommendations, we will deliver a truly inclusive process of reform. This should be a priority for all of us over the coming year. Of course, we recognise that meaningful reform cannot be achieved overnight. It requires careful, determined effort over a sustained period. So we must stick at it, and we must keep the momentum up. I commend the ICC for the work so far. We have to keep working together to end impunity for the most serious crimes of international concern and achieve justice for victims. You can be assured of the UK's enduring commitment to that end.
I thank Her Excellency for her statement and now give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Ann Linde, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Sweden.
Madam President, it's a great pleasure to address this 20th Assembly of State Parties. Allow me to congratulate you, Madam President, on taking up your position earlier this year. as well as Prosecutor Karim Khan and the new judges. You can count on Sweden's full support. Accountability and the fight against impunity are top priorities for my government's foreign policy. Sweden has consistently expressed our steadfast support for the integrity and independence of the court, and I want to express our sincere appreciation to the court, its officials and supporters around the world for their tireless efforts to end impunity for the most serious crimes of international concern. Universal ratification of the Rome Statute lies at the heart of the promise of the ICC and, more broadly, international justice. Perceptions of selective justice must be countered with more state parties, more support for the court, and more justice, not less. Madam President, in order to end impunity, all state parties to the Rome Statute, as well as non-party states as required in the case of Security Council-referred cases, must do their utmost to fulfill their obligation to cooperate with the ICC. The ICC is a court of last resort only at the court's success lies in its complementary nature. The prosecutor is reaching out to states parties to further deepen cooperation in this regard, and Sweden stands ready to engage with the court. Swedish prosecutors are active in prosecuting international crimes, not least with regards to the situation in Syria. Sweden continues to call for a referral of the situation in Syria and in Myanmar to the ICC, which would ensure that the court can investigate the full scope of Rome Statute crimes. Sweden calls on all states to investigate and prosecute serious international crimes and ensure that they have the appropriate domestic legislation in place to do so. I'm also pleased to announce that Sweden has ratified the Kampala amendments. Madam President, the ongoing review process of the court and its organs represent an invaluable opportunity for the court, its organs and the state parties to further strengthen the Rome Statute and ensure it remains a modern instrument which can aptly respond to emerging threats. The independent expert review provides clear guidance on how the court can work more effectively and improve management and a healthier working environment with zero tolerance to bullying and sexual harassments. We must maintain the momentum to reform the court. Sweden welcomes the due diligence measures taken ahead of the election of deputy prosecutors and underscores the importance of the establishment of a permanent vetting mechanism for all elected officials. Madam President, the court must be provided with the necessary resources to be able to effectively carry out its mandate. Sweden is concerned by the financial pressure placed on the court due to states' late or outstanding contributions. We call on all state parties to pay their contributions in full and on time. In order to make justice meaningful for victims of the atrocity crimes, the Rome Statute provides for reparative justice for victims. Sweden has been the largest contributor to the Trust Fund for Victims, with total contribution of approximately 3 million euros during the period of 2019 to 2021. I encourage other state parties to contribute to the fund. Finally, Madam President, I would like to extend a special thank you to our civil society colleagues. We highly value the constructive engagement with us and the court in our common endeavor to maintain and strengthen the operation of the ICC, and we condemn any threats to our pressure on the CSO's cooperation with investigators. I thank you.
I thank Her Excellency for her statement and now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Nikos Christodoulides, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cyprus.
Madam President, it is with great pleasure that I address the 20th Assembly of the State Parties of the Rome Statute. On behalf of the Government of the Republic of Cyprus, allow me to congratulate the President, the new prosecutor of the court, as well as the judges that were elected during the last session. We wish you every success in your noble and very important task, and assure you of our support and commitment to promoting the work of the Court and to safeguarding the international justice architecture of which the International Criminal Court is an indispensable part. The significance of the Court's mission cannot be underestimated or undervalued. The continual human rights violations and challenges across the globe render the need for an impartial, effective and efficient accountability mechanism more pressing than ever. One of the most important areas we all need to focus on is cooperation. The Statute of Rome, on which the Court is founded, is based on the principle of complementarity and is therefore reliant to a large extent on the cooperation of state parties. We must not only strive for the universal ratification and full implementation of the Rome Statute, it is also imperative that we safeguard the principles of independence and impartiality that underpin the Rome Statute as a means of achieving universality. For Cyprus, as a member of the Asia-Pacific Group in the United Nations, the universality gap is even more obvious, and we are convinced that ICC needs to have the strongest possible cross-regional character. In this endeavour, preserving the integrity of the Rome Statute system is essential, especially today given the increase in hostilities and repression worldwide. We need to reaffirm our collective commitment to the goal we set out in 1998 when the Court was established. Cooperation is not limited to commitments under the Statute of Rome. It also extends to the capacity and capability to adequately deliver international justice. The threats and obstacles faced by the Court are unfortunately both internal as well as external. That is why we believe that the ongoing work of the review mechanism will help to strengthen the Court, encourage the development of a healthy working culture, whilst respecting independence and enhancing the credibility and legitimacy of the Court. How otherwise can misconceptions and attempts to undermine the work and impartiality of the Court be addressed? Politically, we need to work on increasing acceptance and ensuring greater cooperation between the Court and non-state parties, including the United Nations, in order to protect judicial and prosecutorial independence and integrity. The issue of outstanding arrest warrants is particularly important in this respect. In parallel, we must ensure the availability of adequate financial resources to enable the Court to fulfill its obligations. This means delivering on pledges and commitments. I would like to assure you that, as a current facilitator for the 2022 budget, Cyprus will act as an honest broker to achieve the best end result, given the need for the Court to deliver upon its mandates while being cautious of the difficult financial environment created by the pandemic in many state parties. At the same time, we must not forget the Trust Fund for Victims of Atrocities. Cyprus will continue to contribute to this fund, which we feel is of increasing significance given the assistance it provides to the victims of such heinous crimes. Madam President, we cannot stress enough the importance of an impartial and independent International Criminal Court, free from any interference and able to provide justice, holding perpetrators accountable for grave crimes, including sexual and gender-based violence, violence against children, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. While we have witnessed some positive developments in the past year, most notably the lifting of US economic sanctions and visa restrictions against the Court, we must remain vigilant and collectively renew our commitment to support and protect the International Criminal Court and its mandate. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency for his statement and now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Hubertus Petrus Maria Knappen, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the Nuremberg trials, the British prosecutor Sir Hartley Shawcross said something remarkable. He proclaimed that the state is not an abstract entity. Its rights and duties are the rights and duties of men. He argued that politicians should not be able to seek immunity behind the intangible personality of the state. He placed fundamental human rights and fundamental human duties at the heart of a new system of international law. It was a radical innovation at the time, but fortunately it has since become a cornerstone of international criminal law. As we gather here this week for the 20th session of the Assembly of State Parties, I am reminded of these words and of the trial at which they were spoken. Because the International Criminal Court is itself an extraordinary innovation in international law. A unique institution without precedent in world history. It's the first treaty-based court that unites countries from around the world in their ambition to end impunity and to provide justice for the victims of international crimes. The Netherlands is proud to be its host state and is a firm supporter of its work. Accountability and the fight against impunity are key human rights priorities in our foreign policy. So I am pleased to see that the court has a record number of cases on its docket and is making serious strides towards reform. The Netherlands welcomes the first signs of an American return to a policy of constructive engagement, and we are pleased that the US sanctions have been lifted. The court and the ASP are currently going through a period of transition in which they will implement the recommendations that came out of the independent expert review. The Netherlands hopes this will help the court to become a more efficient and effective institution, whilst fully respecting the independence of the office of the prosecutor and the judges. We all have work to do. States should improve their cooperation with the court by promptly executing outstanding arrest warrants, as is our obligation under the Rome Statute. States should conclude new framework agreements to cooperate voluntarily with the court on witness relocation, receiving released persons, and enforcing sentences. And finally, states should support the court by paying their contributions. This is the only way to ensure that the ICC can remain financially sustainable and carry out its mandate. Because justice isn't free. It requires dedication, effort, and funding. The ASP can supply all three. It can also help to expand the ICC system by encouraging non-member states to ratify the Rome Statute and by stepping up efforts to gain universal support for the court's mandate. To do this, we need all stakeholders in the international community, including civil society organizations, whose contributions to the further development of the ICC are important and highly appreciated. Together we can create a climate in which inherent human rights and dignities are respected. Together we can add a new chapter to the history of international justice. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency for his statement and now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Iván Lima Magne from the plurinational state of Bolivia.
Madam President, representatives of the states parties to the Rome Statute, I have the pleasure and privilege of addressing you on behalf of the plurinational state of Bolivia on the occasion of the 20th Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. I take this opportunity to convey a respectful greeting from our constitutionally elected President, Luis Arce Catacora. I begin my statement by expressing our congratulations to the recently elected prosecutor, Karim Khan. In the same way, we extend our congratulations to the next deputy prosecutors, whose functions, we are sure, will be carried out ensuring the integrity of the administration of justice and full respect for the rules governing the functioning of the court. We are convinced that the creation of the International Criminal Court has meant significant progress for international justice. Without the creation of this permanent court, many international crimes would have gone unpunished. However, the international community as a whole can still make significant progress to strengthening and protecting this tribunal. Some of these measures are in the hands of our governments and imply consent to the main instruments of the court. Others, however, require collective action. In this regard, last year, we observed with perplexity the imposition of unilateral sanctions on senior officials of the court. Fortunately, such measures that hampered the international judicial function have been revoked, and we hope that all states, whether or not they are parties to the Rome Statute, refrain from imposing illegitimate and illicit measures that weaken this important judicial body. It is a collective task to express our rejection of such sanctions, both in this forum and others of universal or regional scope. Distinguished representatives, the plurinational state of Bolivia is perhaps one of the most committed countries with international criminal law. For example, our country has expressed its consent to the main instruments in this matter. We wish to recall that Bolivia was a negotiating state of the Rome Statute and ratified it in 2002. Likewise, our country has ratified the amendment on the crime of aggression, with the instrument of ratification deposited in December 2020. In a similar vein, I wish to announce that Bolivia has already begun the process for ratification of the amendment to Article 8 of the Rome Statute, which incorporates new acts that constitute war crimes. Furthermore, the Bolivian state is a party to the Agreement on the Privileges and Immunities of the International Criminal Court as of September 2002, having deposited its instrument of ratification in 2006. It is also important to inform this Assembly that the executive and judicial branches of the Bolivian government have cooperated with the court so far when it has been required to do so. These events demonstrate our full commitment to international criminal justice and place Bolivia among those states which are respectful of the international legal order. Besides this steadfast commitment, we vow that the functioning of the court and its organs shall remain attached to international law and, above all, be respectful of its complementary and subsidiary nature concerning national jurisdictions. Particularly, in those circumstances where the cases or situations referred to the court are essentially political and do not comply with the legal standards outlined in the court's judicial practice. We are aware that the progress that's been made can be increased, and therefore, on this occasion, we wish to inform the state's parties, as well as the International Criminal Court, that our Ministry of Justice and Institutional Transparency has begun studies for the drafting of national regulations that will contribute to the implementation of the international crimes established in the Rome Statute into the Bolivian domestic legal system and the facilitation of international cooperation with the court. Undoubtedly, these regulations will be debated at various levels and with as many stakeholders as possible to lay solid foundations for the prevention and prosecution of international crimes through the Bolivian judicial authorities. Now, this task will be challenging, and we will welcome any technical cooperation that the court can offer us to reach this goal. Madam President, distinguished representatives, I would conclude my statement by reaffirming the utmost importance of the International Criminal Court in guaranteeing access to international criminal justice. We make a cordial and fraternal appeal to all states to continue strengthening this court through the ratification of its main instruments, as well as cooperating with it whenever it is required. The construction of an international society free from impunity requires our firm will to strengthen international institutions such as the International Criminal Court. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, agradezco.
Thank you. I'm grateful to His Excellency for that statement.
Give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Eva-Maria Limets, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Estonia.
Madam President, distinguished delegates, Estonia aligns itself with a statement made by Slovenia on behalf of the European Union and its member states. I would like to begin with congratulations to the newly elected President of the Court, President of the Assembly of States Parties, Prosecutor and 6 judges. I would also like to thank the host country, the Netherlands, for all the efforts in hosting this year's Assembly in the difficult situation of continuing COVID-19 pandemic. We commend the Court for carrying out continuously its judicial activities despite the ongoing difficulties caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Estonia once again expresses our strong support to the ICC to respond to atrocity crimes, fight impunity and ensure justice for the victims of the crimes enshrined in the Rome Statute. Madam President, the ICC, in cooperation with the state parties and other stakeholders, as appropriate, should continue efforts to enhance its efficiency and effectiveness in building up a stronger court with high legal quality and working culture in all sectors of their activities. At the same time, the independence and impartiality of the court ought not to be impinged upon. The effectiveness of the court to fulfill its mandate inevitably depends on the cooperation of the states. We call on all states to fully engage and cooperate with the ICC in executing arrest warrants. The Security Council has to respond decisively to grave violations of international law, and it is prerogative to refer a situation to the court. Although we have seen impasse and division of views on ICC issues, while having been an elected member of the Security Council in 2020 to 2021, we have constantly raised the issues of impunity and accountability and the particular role of ICC in its discussions. We call for the enhancement of cooperation and dialogue between the Court and the Security Council. Madam President, we would like to express our appreciation and support to the work and mandate of the Trust Fund for Victims in offering reparations and assistance to victims, their families and communities. As a regular donor, we would like to repeat our call for all states and other donors to consider making voluntary contributions to the Trust Fund. We are particularly glad that for the first time a candidate from Estonia, Mr. Andres Parmas, Prosecutor General, was elected as a member of the Board of Directors, adding his legal knowledge and experience to the Trust Fund. Estonia has resubmitted his candidature, and we are confident that all the candidates to the Board of Directors of the Trust Fund will gain the unanimous support of the Assembly. Like last year, we have to speak again about the budgetary challenges the Court is facing. It is the duty of every state party to pay its financial contributions in time. We can support the Court by making payments at the earliest possible time. We encourage all states that are in arrears to take steps to eliminate their arrears. Meanwhile, the states serving at the different elected posts or who submit their candidates can set a positive example. Madam President, we would like to bring to your attention and thank Liechtenstein for initiating the work of the Council of Advisors on the application of the Rome Statute to cyber warfare that Estonia was proud to support. This year, the Council of Advisors submitted its final report exploring the role of the ICCC in the regulation of cyber warfare. It is important to acknowledge that experts came to the conclusion that such crimes could currently be prosecutable at the ICC without the need for any statutory amendments. Finally, we reiterate our call on all governments aside from the 123 countries that have already done so to ratify the Rome Statute in order to further strengthen the system of international criminal justice and enable it to provide truly universal protection. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency for her statement, and now I give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. José Manuel Álvarez Bueno, Ministro de
Minister of Foreign Affairs, the European Union and Cooperation of the Kingdom of Spain. Your Excellency, Madam Silvia Fernandez de Gurmendi, President of the ASP, high officials of the Court, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for me to speak this year at the Assembly of States Parties of the International Criminal Court. I would like to begin by fully subscribing my delegation with the statement read out by the European Union and commend the prosecutor, Mr. Khan, the president of the course, Judge Hofmansky, and the vice presidents, Judge Ibanez Carranza and Judge Kesimbe Mindua, on their elections. I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate my government's commitment to the court and the Rome Statute and its central role in fighting against impunity. This determined Spanish support is very demanding when it comes to the performance of the court and its inability to meet the expectations of the victims. In 2021, we've continued to suffer from the consequences of the pandemic, and despite that, we certainly recognize the solidity of the court when it comes to carrying out its judicial activities and fulfilling its mandate. I would like to thank the President, the judges, the prosecutor, the registrar, and their staff for their dedication and commitment under trying times. 2021 began with the good news that the United States was lifting its unilateral sanctions against the prosecutor, Madame Bensouda, and part of her staff. We hope that this will be the first step from the United States towards greater cooperation with the court. All of the institutions of the court responded to these sanctions with a spirit of unity and firmness that makes us all feel rightly proud. Looking forward, Madam President, one of the great initiatives that we have to focus on is the revision process. On the basis of the IER, we see an early analysis and, to a certain extent, progress already been made on a large number of the recommendations contained in the IER. Spain has always militated in favor of the independence of the court in keeping with the statute. Now, thanks to this momentum and the leaders of the mechanism, and as well as the working groups in The Hague and New York, and also thanks to the instructive contributions of states and civil society, we believe that we are moving forward in a positive way. We remain convinced that the review process will strengthen the court and improve its operations as an international jurisdictional organization, and will make it possible for us to achieve our overarching objective, which is universality. You can count on my country to continue participating actively as a state party and as an active member of the Bureau of the Assembly in the coming years. Spain lays great store by many of the initiatives that have been taken up by the leadership of the court, especially in the prosecutor's office. This warrants our attention because Spain believes that the prosecutor's office is in the best place to strengthen the system through two things: prevention and complementarity. The OTP can only achieve its objectives by working closely with the authorities in member states and other international mechanisms so that the system can actually work as a complex machinery based on complementarity and cooperation. At this assembly, we are electing the deputy prosecutors. They are key players. I would like to call on all states to make their decisions on the basis of merit, excellence, and maximum moral consideration, bearing in mind that the result must also respond to gender diversity, geographical diversity, and legal diversity. I would like to say a special word of reference to the victims who are at the heart of the system. Spain reiterates its commitment to restoring justice and with providing assistance to the survivors of the horrendous crimes that the court investigates and brings to justice. We will continue providing financial support to the Trust Fund for Victims. At this assembly, we shall be electing a new board of directors. I would urge them all to continue with the excellent job done by the outgoing board, for they have worked with altruism and counted on the support of the Secretariat in order to prosecute two aims: reparations and assistance to victims. Madam President, I would like to conclude by wishing you a very successful assembly, and since I cannot be with you, I would just like to call out to all, on behalf of justice, to all the members of the international community, to cooperate with the court as it fights against impunity and the prevention of heinous crimes. Thank you very much. I'm grateful to His Excellency for that statement.
The floor to His Excellency Mr. Augusto Santos Silva, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs of Portugal.
Madam President, distinguished delegates, it is with great honor that I once more address the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute. I wish to begin by congratulating you, Madam President, as well as the new 6 judges and the prosecutor for your election at the last session of this Assembly. Portugal obviously shares the views expressed by Slovenia on behalf of the European Union. I would like to further underline some particular issues of relevance to my country. Madam President, next year we will stand at this very Assembly and celebrate the 20th anniversary of the entry into force of the Rome Statute and of the International Criminal Court as a fully operational court. The ICC is now an established institution. Its increasing level of activity is a testimony to that fact. Its role of making accountable those responsible for the most serious crimes of international concern and providing justice to victims of such crimes is of paramount importance, including for establishing the conditions for a sustainable peace in communities torn by conflict and wide-scale violence. The Court has been confronted with many adversities over the past years, and new challenges are rising as it continues carrying out its mandate. It is thus crucial that states remain undeterred in their support to the ICC and stay committed to having a comprehensive and constructive dialogue while respecting the integrity and the independence of the court as a judicial institution. Furthermore, states should continue their efforts to cooperate with the court so that it may perform the role it has been given by all our countries. As the ICC enters a new stage in its life, it is important that the court and states parties continue endeavoring to improve its efficiency and effectiveness. Therefore, Portugal praises the review process which is currently in progress and welcomes the efforts made both by the court and states parties to address the report of independent experts, specifically the recommendations contained therein. We must continue taking joint action in this matter and maintain a dialogue between all relevant stakeholders throughout this process. It is our belief that this process will lead not only to an increase of the effectiveness of the court, but also to a better overall perception of the ICC and of its fundamental role. This session, the Assembly will elect new deputy prosecutors. They should be individuals of the highest quality with a high moral character. Portugal was encouraged by the fact that the process set in place for this election seemed to have drawn already from lessons learned from the last process for the election of the prosecutor. Portugal would like to reiterate its strong commitment to the international criminal law and to the values it represents. We will continue supporting its work as well as its independence. Towards this end, it is my honor to inform this Assembly that on the 16th of May, Portugal deposits the instrument of ratification of the amendment to Article 8 of the Rome Statute adopted in 2019, accepting that the intentional use of starvation of civilians as a method of warfare constitutes a war crime also in non-international armed conflicts. Allow me to conclude my statement by expressing Portugal's full commitment to working with you, Madam President, and the other delegations towards a successful session of the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency for his statement.
And now I shall give the floor to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, European Union, International Trade and Worship, His Excellency Mr. Santiago Andrés Cafiero of Argentina. You have the floor, sir. Madam President, it's an honor for me to have this opportunity to represent the Argentine Republic at the outset of this 20th Assembly of States Parties. To begin with, I would like to recall that in 2023, we shall be celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Rome Statute, which is a milestone towards building a world of the rule of law and the fight against impunity of the most heinous crimes of international importance. Argentina actively participated in the negotiation process that gave rise to this essential treaty, and since then has supported the activities of the Court and the Assembly that is currently honored under the presidency of Silvia Fernandez de Gurmendi. My country is proud to be the only state party that has subscribed to the 4 cooperation agreements with the Court. Cooperation of states to enable the Court to fully fulfill its mandate is one of the central pillars of the statute system. And we welcome the fact that here in the Assembly, the special segment has been set aside to discuss this. Moreover, Argentina sets great store by other forms of cooperation that help build capacity of states to fulfill their primary responsibilities of investigating and judging crimes. In this connection, I would like to mention the initiative of mutual legal assistance and extradition for atrocities by Argentina, Belgium, Slovenia, Mongolia, the Netherlands, and Senegal. The development of a multilateral treaty in this area will go a long way to strengthening the principle of complementarity as set forth in the statute. Madam President, for the Court to fully fulfill its activities, we have to redouble our efforts in order to achieve the universality of the statute. We firmly support all of the development of the review mechanism that is currently before us. We believe that this will certainly contribute to strengthening the system and making it more legitimate. Let me conclude by reiterating Argentina's firm commitment to the ICC. You can rest assured that our country shall leave no stone unturned as it seeks to help consolidate a universal, independent, impartial, and effective court. This spirit shall guide our participation throughout this assembly. Thank you very much. I'm grateful to His Excellency for that statement.
And now I give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Anniken Huitfeldt, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Norway.
Madam President, it's a great privilege to address this assembly on behalf of Norway. Norway is a staunch supporter of the ICC and a consistent partner in the fight against impunity. The Court has shown resilience during a challenging time. It has maintained an impressive level of activity under difficult circumstances. I would like to thank the Court's officials and staff. The continued backing of the state parties is crucial. We must protect our court. Norway remains committed to do so. We will support the court in all relevant forums, including as an elected member of the Security Council. Madam President, to safeguard the court's vital role, we must deliver on reform. The ongoing review process is of great importance. Norway seeks to promote a strong and independent court. We welcome the recommendations of the independent experts. Now they must be implemented, and this must be done effectively. With a focus on results, Norway fully supports the adoption of a resolution on the review process. Improving the governance of the court is a priority. We need a healthy working culture, gender equality and integrity. These are essential to the court's reputation and success. We will also focus on increasing effectiveness and efficiency, from preliminary examinations to the end of the judicial process. We encourage the prosecutor to continue to promote a culture of independent and a critical quality control. Madam President, to carry out its mission, the court needs to be properly funded. It needs to have sufficient resources to meet the increased demand. The court's liquidity situation gives cause of great concern. We call on state parties to ensure the timely, full payment of contributions. Madam President, let me conclude by repeating Norway's strong commitment to the ICC. We look forward to discuss how to strengthen the court and the Rome Statute system. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency for her intervention. And now I would like to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Kiriowa Kiwanuka, Attorney General of Uganda, who is going to address us in person today. You have the floor, sir.
The President of the Assembly of States Parties, the heads of delegation and representatives of states parties, the judges of the International Criminal Court, the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, officers of the International Criminal Court, ladies and gentlemen. Madam President, on behalf of my delegation, I take this opportunity to salute you for the excellent manner in which you have steered the business of this assembly since your election last year, and to assure you of my country's support and cooperation during your session. I also take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Karim Khan on his election as prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, and to pledge my country's support to his work in the same way we have supported all his predecessors in office. In the same vein, I take the opportunity to pay tribute to the immediate past prosecutor, Ms. Fatou Bensouda, for the long and dedicated service to the court, and to wish her success in her future endeavors. I would like to also congratulate the newly appointed judges and wish them well as they undertake this noble task. Madam President, allow me to begin my remarks by reiterating to this Assembly Uganda's unwavering commitment to the fight against impunity within her borders and beyond. And as we have previously done, we wish to remind this Assembly that Uganda was the first state in January 2004 to make a referral to the ICC following its coming into force in 2002. By making that referral, Uganda afforded the court its first opportunity to put the Rome Statute to the test and to perfect its modus operandi. From the time of this referral to this date, Uganda continues to work closely with the court in performing its mandate both within the country and elsewhere on the African continent. We hope to remain a reliable, committed partner to the court in pursuit of its mandate. Madam President, as we have also informed this distinguished assembly on several occasions, Uganda remains steadfast in its efforts to lift the complementarity principle from the pages of the Rome Statute and of hundreds of academic journals out to the reality. The International Crimes Division of the High Court of Uganda, about which we have had the opportunity to address this assembly on previous occasions, is now a pillar of our judicial setup, and we appreciate the interest that partners across the globe, including the court, have had in its operations. The division's jurisdiction as well as its rules of procedure mirror those of the ICC, and this has established the division as a capable and credible alternative to the court, which is what the Rome Statute, which establishes the ICC as only a court of last resort, is all about. Presently, there are 34 cases pending before the court, which is testimony to its institutional crystallization over the last 10 years. The division is well on its path to creating international criminal law precedents by its decisions, and presently offers a platform for internship for scholars and students of international criminal law. Thus, Uganda now has the capacity to domestically deal with any matters falling under the jurisdiction of the court on the basis of the same standards as those of the court. Madam President, allow me to use this opportunity to remind this court of its cardinal role, which is ensuring that the victims of the atrocities receive justice. Key to this is the strict adherence to the gravity threshold principle, which is Article 17(1)(d) of the Rome Statute. This requires that the relevant organs of the court promptly dismiss frivolous, usually politically informed complaints that every now and then make their way to this institution. By doing so, the ICC will be able to maintain its due gravitas and to maintain and remain a court of last resort as it was designed to be. Madam President, we welcome the conviction by the court in February 2021 of Mr. Dominic Ongwen, one of the first persons to be indicted by this court in 2005, for atrocities committed against the people of northern Uganda for 18 years. We believe that the conviction is a victory for the victims and a milestone for the court. However, we must remind ourselves that the main architect of the atrocities, Joseph Kony, remains at large outside the borders of Uganda, and that his continued evasion of the law represents a major failure on the part of the international community. It's our hope that he too will be held to account, and soon. Madam President, allow me to observe that Uganda welcomes the fact that the court has, as we are informed, opened investigations in places outside Africa, which we believe will enhance the credibility of the court. It is no secret that for a long time, the court has not been successful in dispelling the notion in some quarters that it's not a global court, but a court designed to target Africa and Africans. Even its most ardent advocates have had a hard time countering the accusation in the face of the statistics, and yet there has never been a shortage of cases outside the continent that merit the attention of the court. If the court can ensure that investigations outside Africa result in indictments and trials, and that the decisions to prosecute is reached without partiality, it will serve the court and the entire Rome Statute well. With regard to the prosecutions that have been pursued in the court, there is need to address the issue of bias in the choice of whom to hold accountable. There are instances where parties to a conflict have committed atrocities and only one side, in some instances the side that reacted in defense, is prosecuted while the instigator is not held to account. This portrays the system as biased and unprincipled. Madam President, allow me to conclude by reiterating my country's keenness on a continued close relationship with the court, and by wishing everyone here great deliberations over the next 6 days. I thank you.
I thank you for your intervention. And now I give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Ingrid Brokova, State Secretary, Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs of Slovakia.
Aligning myself with the statement made on behalf of the European Union, I have the honor to address the Assembly with further observations in national capacity. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the new President and Vice Presidents, the Prosecutor, as well as the judges elected during the previous session of the Assembly. I also wish to reiterate the profound belief of Slovakia that the mere existence of a permanent international judicial organ having jurisdiction over the most heinous crimes under international law reflects the universal nature of the rule of law and accountability. The imperative of justice and humanity are reflected in the Rome Statute. The International Criminal Court makes sure that these general rules and aspirations are applied to very specific situations, thereby bringing justice to communities affected by conflict and making a contribution to sustainable peace and reconciliation. Madam President, 2021 has been a very eventful year for the Rome Statute system and the International Criminal Court. The newly elected officials have assumed their offices at a critical juncture for the court. The momentum carried by the new leadership of the court must be used for the strengthening of the court by making it more efficient, effective, and fit for the achievement of the noble goals enshrined in the Rome Statute. The ongoing review process carries a huge, once-in-a-generation potential. We must ensure that this potential is materialized to its fullest extent. The group of independent experts has unveiled many pertinent issues and recommended possible measures to address them. The discussions have already yielded tangible results, for example, the agreement on the procedure of rule of amendments. Legal certainty, combined with the ability to adapt to practical challenges to the judicial work, are crucial for the proper operation of the court. We are confident that the resolution the Assembly will adopt at this session will achieve exactly this. Madam President, Slovakia firmly believes that political and practical support to the cause of the fight against impunity and specifically to the International Criminal Court must go hand in hand. The court, by granting a strong voice to victims, has been a beacon of hope for conflict-torn communities. In this regard, we appreciate the work done by the Trust Fund for Victims, fulfilling both its reparation and assistance mandates. It is therefore my pleasure to announce that Slovakia will make a voluntary contribution to the Trust Fund again this year. Furthermore, Slovakia is negotiating the terms of a bilateral agreement on voluntary cooperation with the court. I firmly believe that discussion will come to a fruitful conclusion, whereby Slovakia would provide a very practical support for the fulfillment of the court's mandate. To conclude, Madam President, Slovakia wishes to record its unwavering support for the court. We remain determined to continue working constructively with all partners for a successful system of international criminal justice. I thank you.
I thank Her Excellency for her statement and now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Martin Smolek, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Czech Republic.
Madam President, the Czech Republic fully supports the statement delivered on behalf of the European Union and its member states, and wishes to add a few remarks in its national capacity. Since the last year, a lot has changed. Turning to the ICC organization itself, let me congratulate the new prosecutor, Mr. Karim Khan, on assuming his function half a year ago. We wish to confirm that the office of the prosecutor can count on the Czech Republic's support. We also congratulate the new president of the court, Judge Piotr Hofmański, on his election, and the new president of the Assembly, Mrs. Silvia Fernandez de Gurmendi. Madam President, the ICC has proven itself a successful organization, enjoying a broad support of states and prepared to engage in the follow-up of the review process. We are ready to continue to to engage actively in its governance as a current bureau member. Without any doubts, the core functions of the court are those of judicial nature. We are pleased to see that even in times of pandemic, the court continued to deal with and even increase its workload. We fully recognize the link to adequate financial resources, and we are ready to pay our contribution immediately, as every year. We call on all state parties to do the same. Finally, let me mention that the Czech Republic will financially contribute to the trust fund for victims also this year. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency for his statement and give now the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Livia Leu, State Secretary, Federal Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland.
Madame la Présidente. Madam President, in these times of the pandemic, the International Criminal Court is more necessary than ever. We created it to hold perpetrators accountable for their criminal acts and to end impunity. A strong and independent ICC can deter potential perpetrators. Switzerland continues with its unwavering support, therefore, and this goes hand in hand with our commitment to an effective International Criminal Court. This is a priority in our foreign policy, and we shall continue to work this week and in the future towards this goal. The Assembly should make the most of this session to strengthen the court and the Rome Statute system. Switzerland has been advocating 4 actions in this regard. Firstly, we should put into practice the recommendations of the independent experts. In particular, the prosecutorial and judicial independence of the court needs to be guaranteed. Many of the recommendations have been discussed and implemented over the last 12 months. We welcome the fruitful exchanges in this regard and thank all those who have contributed thereto. We are particularly grateful to the review mechanism for its transparent coordination. We need to build on this momentum in accordance with the comprehensive action plan. Switzerland will continue to engage in this process. Secondly, the court can only fulfill its mandate if we provide it with adequate resources. This is a responsibility on all of us, and we call on states parties to pay their dues. Late or unpaid contributions prolong investigations and trials, and they delay justice for victims. Thirdly, it is essential to nominate and elect only the most qualified persons to key positions. This year, we are to elect 2 deputy prosecutors. In 2 years' time, we will elect new judges. These coming months need to be used to further bolster our election and nomination procedures, both at the national level and within the Assembly. We have just established a due diligence process for candidates, and Switzerland welcomes this important first step. This due diligence should now be carried out for all important appointments. Fourthly and finally, we call on states parties to ratify the amendments to the Rome Statute. The court needs to be able to ensure accountability for the most serious of crimes in current conflicts. In many non-international armed conflicts, starvation is being used as a method of warfare against civilians. The Assembly of States Parties amended the Rome Statute in 2019 to give the court jurisdiction over this war crime. It is therefore essential that we continue our efforts and ratify the amendments to the Rome Statute. This contributes to a more effective court and to the prevention of further suffering. Madam President, the court was established to prevent and investigate the most serious crimes, regardless of who committed them. It is an independent and impartial judicial institution governed by law. The court's heavy workload shows how much we need this institution today. Let us commit together to strengthening and supporting the court and the system of the Rome Statute during this assembly session. You can count on Switzerland for this. Thank you very much.
I thank Her Excellency for her statement, and now I give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Benedetto della Vedova, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Italy.
Madam President, I'm honored to address the Assembly of States Parties on behalf of the Italian government. Italy fully aligns itself with the intervention delivered on behalf of the European Union and its member states, and I will add a few remarks in my national capacity. Italy has always been in the forefront of the development of an effective international criminal justice system. And 23 years after hosting the conference that adopted the Rome Statute, I wish to reiterate my country's unwavering support to the International Criminal Court, which remains an indispensable institution and the bulwark, often the last one, against the impunity of perpetrators of the most serious crimes. In a world still plagued by violence, conflict, and gross violations of human rights, we must not turn a deaf ear to the increasing demand for justice coming from the still too many individuals who fall victim of atrocious crimes. For them, the court is a beacon of hope. Italy therefore supports the victim-oriented approach promoted by the court through the participation of victims in the proceedings and the provision of reparations and assistance by the Trust Fund for Victims, to which we contribute. By holding the perpetrators of international crimes accountable and repairing the harm suffered by victims and communities, not only does the court deliver justice, it also contributes to creating the condition for sustainable peace. Madam President, Italy welcomes the significant progress made by the court over the past year in a number of investigations and proceedings, as highlighted by the President of Mansky in the annual report recently presented to the General Assembly. It is the responsibility of state parties to contribute to consolidate this momentum. That implies a renewed commitment to preserving the integrity of the Rome Statute, promoting its universality, respecting the independence of the court, and also equipping it with the necessary financial resources. Indeed, we must reflect together how we can improve the situation around the budget and build a system where we can see better returns for our investment. We note with concern the serious challenges that the court continues to face in relation to its request for cooperation, including the execution of its outstanding arrest warrants. And we call on states parties to comply with their obligation to cooperate fully with the court in the investigation and prosecution of crimes within its jurisdiction. In this regard, we should use more effectively the tools at our disposal. We also stress the obligations under international law and the UN Charter incumbent upon all UN member states, in particular in cases deferred by the Security Council. The ongoing reform process, which Italy is following with great attention, offers invaluable opportunities to enhance the court's delivery of justice. The approval of the action plan by the Bureau with the indication of the priority recommendations is the first important step in order to make the court more efficient and effective. We believe that the special attention should be paid to the implementation of recommendations aimed at improving the quality and effectiveness of investigations, decision-making, cooperation, and management of financial resources. Italy will continue to contribute to this process in line with the principles of the Rome Statute. And to conclude, Madam President, I am very glad to report that last November, the Italian Parliament adopted the law authorizing the ratification of the Kampala Amendments on the crime of aggression and war crimes. I believe this bears witness to the firm and continued commitment of the Italy's institutions to the quest for justice and accountability, which is enshrined in the Rome Statute, and which ultimately coincides with the centrality that the Italian Constitution accords to the protection of human rights and the promotion of peace. We have invested heavily in the ICC, both politically and financially. We have the responsibility to work together to support into the future, to build buttresses around it, to ensure it can deliver on its mandate for justice. And I thank you for your attention.
I thank His Excellency for his statement, and now I give the floor to His Excellency Ambassador Cyril Jan Noon, Ambassador of Germany to the Netherlands.
Madam President, I am honored to address the Assembly of State Party. The Federal Republic of Germany fully aligns itself with the statement made by the European Union, and please allow me to add some comments in our national capacity. First of all, Germany commends you as President of the Assembly and the team of the Bureau, as well as the Secretariat, for the excellent preparation of the ASP in these difficult times. I would like to congratulate you for having assumed this important position, as well as the prosecutor and the judges who were elected during the last session of the Assembly. Germany pledges its full support for your important work. Madam President, we highly appreciate the International Criminal Court as a solid and integral part of today's international legal order, with its unique mandate to bring justice and fight impunity. Next year, on 1st July, we will mark the 25th anniversary of the entry into force of the Rome Statute of 2002. This is an encouraging success and also a common objective. International crimes must not go unpunished, and their perpetrators must be held accountable. On behalf of my government, I would like to express my gratitude to all who contribute to the success of the Rome Statute. Today and throughout this week, you and the Assembly of States Party, and throughout the whole year, of course, the judges, the prosecutor, the registry, and all staff members, as well as the civil society worldwide. Still, we should also remain modest. The court's scope is still not universal, and atrocity crimes have escaped responsibility and investigation as well as trials. Therefore, we assure the court of our lasting support for its work. In our view, the court's success will depend on the general support of two double pillars. Primarily, independence and impartiality. We remain absolutely convinced that there should not be outside interference or pressure relating to the independence and impartiality of the court. Outside interference or pressure has no place in the work of the court. In another perspective, we would like to encourage the court to avail itself of the opportunity to benefit from the advice of independent experts. Within the ongoing review process, Germany remains committed to further improving the court and its mechanisms. We call upon the court and all parties involved to analyze and act upon the resulting recommendations. Strengthening efficiency and effectiveness is in the court's own interest. This brings me to my second double pillar. We as state parties and the court will need to stay ambitious and active. As to the budget, we have for many years advocated a solid budget process. I'm fully aware that this is a financial challenge, especially in times of the pandemic. Also under these circumstances, we remained a steady supporter of the ICC and a large contributor to the ICC's budget. At the same time, we share the concerns of many other states party about the high amounts of arrears. We urge all state parties to provide the ICC with the necessary financial resources. As the court's workload continues to increase, we cannot expect it to deliver high-quality international justice without adequate capacities. Madam President, allow me to recall the court's critical role in providing a forum for victims to air their grievances and seek redress. In our view, it is also important to secure additional voluntary contributions to the Trust Fund for Victims. Germany has consistently made voluntary contributions to the Trust Fund of Victims as well as the Trust Fund for Family Visits. And I'm glad to inform you that my government is continuing this practice and will contribute another 125,000 euros altogether in this trust fund this year. Madam President, we are of the view that the court also merits the full political support as well as practical cooperation and assistance of states. The ICC's mandate can only be achieved collectively by the court, state parties, as well as civil society. Our contributions must safeguard the judicial independence of the court and the integrity of the Rome Statute. Let us move forward together in rendering the court even stronger. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank you, Ambassador, for your statement. I'll now give the floor to His Excellency Ambassador Matthew E.K. Neuhaus, Ambassador of Australia to the Netherlands.
Madam President, honourable ministers, excellencies, colleagues.
Microphone, please. This is the English interpreter. We do not have sound.
Madam President, honourable ministers, excellencies, colleagues. First, let me warmly congratulate you on your election to preside over our Assembly, and also to the ICC President Piotr Hofmansky and Prosecutor Karim Khan, QC, who were elected to their significant leadership positions this year. We pay tribute to former Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda and former President Chile Ebu Osuji for their contribution over many years to the court and its mission. I also welcome the 6 newly elected judges who were sworn in on the 10th of March and highlight with pleasure that the International Criminal Court has now reached gender parity on its bench. This new generation of leadership will, we trust, be further strengthened this week when the Assembly elects 2 new deputy prosecutors. By supporting the most highly qualified and meritorious candidates, we can help to ensure that the Court is optimally positioned to deliver on its core mandate and necessary reforms in coming years. Madam President, as a strong supporter of accountability and a long-standing supporter of the International Criminal Court, Australia remains firm in its conviction that accountability for atrocity crimes is critical to sustaining peace and supporting reconciliation in post-conflict situations. Accountability for these most serious international crimes is the core of the Court's mandate. We appreciate the commitment of the Court to continue this work undeterred, despite the unique challenges presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. We are pleased that the number of active trials with court hearings is forecast to double, from 2 trials in 2021 to 4 trials in 2022. Delivering justice for victims must remain our key objective while pursuing accountability for impunity. This is why Australia was pleased to contribute 300,000 Australian dollars to the Trust Fund for Victims this year. We hope that our contribution, with its particular focus on reparations for victims and survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, underscores that Australia's commitment to gender justice at home and abroad is backed by action. Madam President, Australia thanks the review mechanism for its leadership in continuing to drive review and reform of the ICC as a transparent and inclusive state party-driven process, which must include all relevant stakeholders to be successful. The report of the independent expert review provides an excellent basis for reform, and we appreciate the willingness of the Court to engage in dialogue with states parties on all recommendations. We must maintain momentum and a shared focus on implementing reforms to the Court and the Rome Statute system. As part of this reform process, states parties must urgently address the state of arrears and the liquidity issues facing the Court. We must not allow this to become a persistent and structural issue. We urge all states parties to pay their assessed contributions in full and on time. Madam President, Australia recognises the Court's contribution to the international rules-based order. Australia is of the view that the Court must focus on matters squarely within its core mandate at all stages of the investigatory process, including preliminary examinations. The Court must continue to find ways to deliver robustly, effectively and efficiently within the reality of finite resources. Australia recognises the Court's increased workload next year and the costs associated with delivering on reform, and so supports the budget increase recommended by the Committee on Budget and Finance. Prioritisation, though, will be important going forward. Madam President, the primary responsibility to investigate and, where appropriate, prosecute those responsible for serious international crimes rests with states, and properly so. The ICC's role is as a critical court of last resort, where states that would otherwise have jurisdiction are unable or unwilling to exercise it. This complementary nature of the ICC's jurisdiction is fundamental to its mandate and will be critical to its success. As co-focal point on complementarity, Australia is pleased to have worked so closely with Uganda again this year to facilitate dialogue on this priority review issue. Australia would like to thank the Court and the Office of the Prosecutor in particular for engaging with the Assembly and stakeholders so constructively on the topic. Deeper dialogue is needed to build a better shared understanding of the principle of complementarity, and we look forward to continuing to facilitate the dialogue with the OTP in early 2022 as it reviews its policies and practices. Over the last year, Australia and Uganda have also facilitated consultations on the important issue of sexual and gender-based crimes. We encourage states parties to once again support language in the Omnibus resolution to ensure this dialogue continues in the coming year. Madam President, as we embark on a new year of review and reform, we must not forget that it is individuals in the court, particularly its leaders, who will ultimately deliver change, particularly to the court's internal culture and governance. Australia commits itself to continue its active support and partnership with the court in achieving the success we all wish it to be. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank you, Ambassador, for your statement. And now I give the floor to His Excellency, the Ambassador Riaz Hamidullah, Ambassador of Bangladesh to the Netherlands.
Madam President, our warm felicitation to you for your stewardship as the President of the 20th session of the Assembly. Your wisdom and stewardship we value. We also felicitate all the 6 new judges. Our warm welcome to Mr. Karim Khan as the new prosecutor. He surely would take the standing and credibility of the court with his wisdom and experience. We also place our appreciation to the preceding prosecutor, Madam Fatou Bensouda, as also the outgoing Deputy Prosecutor, James Stewart, for their exemplary contributions. Madam President, Bangladesh values ICC not just as an institution of the present, but also of the future. Bangladesh's commitment to the principle of justice and accountability and our support to the court since 1999 as an independent and impartial judicial institution emanates from our own history and the values, irrespective of our level of economic development. After 2 decades of functioning of ICC, it's crucial for the international community to see that the court can effectively deter the culture of impunity. We join all those who spoke so far in stressing on the universalization of the Rome Statute. It's so very necessary at this point of time to uphold rule of law everywhere. We all are pledge-bound, Madam President, in ensuring that the perpetrators of the humanity's most heinous crimes are brought to justice. Despite our resolute commitment, it's so tragic that in Myanmar, genocidal acts unfolded against the Rohingya population in the Rakhine State. Last month, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a consensus resolution on Myanmar situation. Pursuant to Article 15 of the Rome Statute, those responsible for large-scale deportation of the Rohingya people to Bangladesh from the Rakhine State must be brought to justice and be made accountable. The court's expeditious actions should also help creating crucial enabling environment in the Rakhine State. We look forward to OTP and other organs of the court to sustain momentum in the investigation process. Bangladesh has all along engaged with the authorities in Myanmar in good faith, sincerity, and transparency. As the world asked for justice and accountable for Rohingyas, our intention was infused with the complementarity principle of the Rome Statute and the genocide and crimes against humanity Bangladesh itself went through during our war of liberation in 1971. Madam President, ICC is increasingly an integral part of global discourse on upholding rule of law. There should be an interface in realizing the Agenda 2030, particularly SDG 16. If we are to further strengthen our existing national laws in conformity with our obligations under Rome Statute, we believe the state parties and regional international organizations would benefit in working towards effectively realizing SDG 16 in furthering complementarity mandate of the Rome Statute. Madam President, ICC is expected to expand innovative programs and engagements under cooperation and outreach activities. While Bangladesh appreciates the court's initiatives to ensure geographic diversity and gender balance in recruitment of the staff of the court, all means need to be creatively exhausted to secure desired geographic diversity and gender balance in the court's staff composition. ICC would need to strengthen its efforts to promote participation of nationals, of underrepresented and non-represented state parties in internship, visiting professionals, and JPO programs of the court. Resourcing the court is a key, particularly with its rising engagements. We reiterate, as we have been hearing from many others, as also what the prosecutor emphasized in the morning plenary, for all states parties to adequately resource the court in full so that the tasks entrusted on it are fully accomplished. Madam President, the reparative role of ICC is a matter of some solace to the victims of atrocity crimes. Our support remains for the new board of directors of TFV, as its appreciable work is high on demand in support of the faithful victims of atrocity crimes worldwide. Finally, Madam President, our appreciation to both the co-facilitators for steering the review mechanism work in a focused manner. As an ad-country focal point, Bangladesh lent her modest bit. Bangladesh would urge all to continue contributing in the state party-driven mechanism process in the next phase. We particularly welcome the fact that some of the recommendations are already on implementation. Madam President, Bangladesh had been at the forefront of the global campaign for the early adoption of the Rome Statute and creation of ICC. As a functioning democracy, Bangladesh remains firm in realizing a just, inclusive, responsible, harmonious world. Our collective works must be geared towards ending impunity for the perpetrators of the most heinous crimes. Justice and accountability must not be a matter of choice. Thank you, Madam.
I thank you, Ambassador, for your statement. And we have now reached the end of the list of speakers for today. I really thank you all for your participation in this debate through videos or in person. I regret that many had needed to cancel their in-person participation today, but I'm really heartened by the extraordinary strong support that has been provided and has been shown today for the court and the Rome Statute system as a whole. We will close the debate for today. We are still struggling to solve the technical issue. We would like to be able to complete the video by Liechtenstein. Hopefully we will be able to do it tomorrow. And we will continue the general debate tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. I urge you to try to be on time so we can start on time as well. And today I would like to announce that at 6 o'clock here in this plenary hall, there will be informal consultations on the review mechanism. These informals will be held here in the plenary as of 18 hours, 6 o'clock, that is in 20 minutes. So you have the time to relax a bit and then come back at 6 o'clock. I thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned.